The gallery was called Verre, floor-to-ceiling glass on the top floor of the Ashcombe building, the kind of space where a single painting sold for 6 figures and the opening reception required an invitation printed on cotton stock. I walked in wearing a plain gray coat I'd had for 3 winters. My brother Holt stood near the entrance in a tailored navy suit, his wife Genevieve beside him dripping in something that caught the gallery lighting like it was designed to. "You made it," Holt said, not quite looking at me. "Didn't think this was really your scene." "It's Dad's retrospective," I said. "Of course I came." "Try not to touch anything," Genevieve murmured as we walked toward the reception hall. "Some of these pieces are worth more than your apartment, I'd guess." I didn't answer. I followed them past clusters of collectors in expensive black, toward the room where our family had gathered to celebrate our father's 40th year as a working sculptor. Dad sat near the center, silver-haired and quiet, the way he always got at his own openings. My mother stood beside him in deep green silk. My younger sister Wren and her fiancé were already holding champagne. Aunt Colette and Uncle Marcus, Holt's in-laws, everyone who mattered gathered under a wall of my father's early bronze work. "There you are," Mom said, hugging me with the particular briskness she reserved for me alone. We were starting to wonder. "Traffic," I said, which was half true. "Well, you're here now." She gestured vaguely toward a folding chair near the catering table, away from the family cluster. I sat without comment. "Champagne for everyone," Holt announced to a passing server, "except maybe just sparkling water for my sister. It's not cheap, and I know things are tight." "I'll have the champagne," I said evenly. The server hesitated, then poured it. Genevieve's smile thinned at the edges but held. Dinner unfolded in courses I didn't order and didn't ask about, plated things with names I recognized from menus I'd written myself years earlier under a different name. Holt narrated each course to the table like a man reciting his own net worth. "Isn't this something?" he said to Dad. "Genevieve found this caterer. Apparently they only do private collections and museum galas." "It's lovely," Dad said quietly, the way he said most things now. Genevieve leaned toward me between courses. "Just so you're not shocked later, we're splitting the catering bill among everyone who can chip in. Maybe 200 from you, if that's manageable." I nodded and drank my champagne. Across the table, Holt was explaining his promotion at the investment bank in loud, unnecessary detail. Wren was describing her fiancé's law firm bonus, everyone performing for an audience that had stopped listening years ago. "So how's the shop?" Holt asked me eventually, in the tone people use for a relative's minor illness. "Still good," I said. "Still just running the frame counter, or did they finally make you manager?" Genevieve added, patting my hand. "There's no shame in simple work. Not everyone needs to be ambitious." This was the story they knew, that 6 years ago, I'd quietly stepped back from a curatorial career everyone assumed had stalled, and taken a job stretching canvas and cutting mats at a small frame shop downtown. What none of them knew was that I owned the shop, the building above it, and the gallery 2 blocks over that had quietly become the most influential contemporary space in the city, along with the auction house that consigned half of what passed through it. "I manage fine," I said. "I'm sure you do," Genevieve said, and turned back to Dad. The evening went on that way, dish after dish, each one a small performance of who had arrived and who hadn't. When dessert was cleared, a man in a chef's coat approached our table directly. Etienne Marchetti, the gallery's culinary director, whose tasting menus required a 6-month waiting list even for collectors. He didn't look at Holt. He looked at me. "Miss Delacroix," he said warmly, "I wanted to check personally that this evening met your standards." The table went silent mid-sentence. "Everything's been wonderful, Etienne. Thank you. And the lighting rig in the East Gallery. Did the technicians get the color temperature you asked for on your father's early bronzes?" "Exactly right," I said. He nodded, satisfied, and returned toward the kitchen. Genevieve found her voice first. "Why did he call you that? Why does he know what lighting you asked for?" "Probably because I own the gallery," I said. The silence that followed had weight to it. "You what?" my mother said. "I acquired Verre 4 years ago," I said. "It's the flagship of a small group I run. 2 more exhibition spaces, an auction house, and the frame shop, which I still work at some mornings because I like the quiet before opening." Holt was already on his phone, scrolling. "She's not joking," he said, turning the screen toward Genevieve. "Delacroix Fine Art Holdings. That's her. My professional photo, the gallery listings, estimated annual revenue climbing well past what Holt's bank paid him." "But you cut mats," Wren said, her voice thin. "I like working with my hands," I said. It keeps me honest about what I'm building. How? My father asked quietly, the first thing he'd said directly to me all evening. I saved everything from my first job, I said. Every commission, every bonus. I lived above a hardware store for 3 years. When I had enough, I bought a failing frame shop for almost nothing and made it profitable. Then I used that to buy the building. Then I did it again. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked, her hand at her collarbone. I tried, I said. 4 years ago, when I acquired the auction house, I invited everyone to the opening. Holt had a work dinner. 2 years ago, when I bought Verre, I called to share it, and you spent 20 minutes telling me about Ren's engagement party budget. Nobody answered that. A server arrived quietly with a leather folder for the bill. Holt opened it and went pale reading the total. That won't be necessary, I said, and typed a short message on my phone. Dinner's on the house tonight. Consider it my gift to Dad. You can't just, Genevieve started. It's my gallery, I said gently. I can. Etienne returned a moment later, with a bottle he'd clearly been saving, pouring a taste for my father. For 40 years of work that deserved to be seen properly, he said. Dad's hands weren't quite steady taking the glass. I've been condescending to you for years, Genevieve said quietly, not looking at me. I thought. She didn't finish. I know, I said. You never asked me to correct you, and I stopped offering. My mother reached across for my hand. I should have listened when you tried to tell us. You see it now, I said. That's what matters tonight. Holt cleared his throat. So, any chance you're hiring curatorial staff? Despite everything, I laughed. You hate looking at art, Holt. I hate my job more, he said, and for a second he almost sounded honest. I drove home past the gallery, past the shop, past the quiet architecture of something I'd built without asking anyone's permission to be believed. My phone filled slowly with texts, apologies, questions, a tentative request from Ren for coffee, just the two of us. I didn't answer any of them that night. Tomorrow I'd open the frame shop at 7, same as always, and cut mats for whoever walked in first. But for the first time in a long while, the people who'd decided who I was had finally seen who I'd actually become, and I hadn't had to raise my voice once to show them. If your own family had underestimated you for years, would you have let the truth surface on its own timeline the way I did, or forced the reveal the moment you had the means to?